Let's get loaded on Lansdowne. Effervescence. Schweppervescence.
That was a very good one.
All right, welcome to episode 84 of the Loaded on Lansdowne Boston Red Sox podcast. I'm your host, Mark Chikaris. Alongside me virtually since March is producer Andrew Andrews.
That's right.
And Andrew, we had a good week on the podcast. Actually, we had a horrible week on the podcast because we didn't podcast last week because of, well, you were on vacation, and then we had some technical difficulties with our web hosting site. But all those have been
actually be okay. Yep.
Everything has been taken care of, and we're back, baby. Feels good. Feels good to be back as this season starts to, kind of chug along here. But the good news for us, and we want to thank all of our listeners and our viewers on YouTube. Came out last week some podcast ratings and numbers, and depending on which website you look at,
we look at all the ones that reflect well on us.
Right. So we are definitely we're definitely in the top 10 Red Sox podcasts, but we're closer to number 5 really.
We're doing all right.
A bunch of the websites I took a look at that track podcasts, we were in the top 5. So just want to thank everyone who has stayed with us. New fans that have come on board, we welcome you. And we love doing this. We love talking about the Sox, even in these difficult times. And I'm not talking about the pandemic. I'm talking about their
the Red Sox
actual play of baseball. So it's tough to do a podcast like this when the first year we started podcasting was 2018. So Well, that was actually difficult for us too, Andy, because you and I are both negative, cynical, jerks.
No, this is definitely, if you want to be I hate the Red Sox, this is where you want to be. But this is bad.
Yeah, but it was tough in 2018 because they were really good. And we had nothing.
They actually kept winning. Yeah, David Price gave us some shenanigans here and there.
a little bit of fodder there. But that was about it. So anyway, we want to thank everyone. Hopefully technical difficulties are gone. So Andy, let's talk about the current state of the Sox. Actually, the current state of the Sox right now is they're losing. Surprise, surprise. 1-0 to the bitter rivals, the rivalry, New York Yankees.
I saw a tweet last night. I think it was Carabas. If they give up 8 runs tonight,
yes,
then that'll make a week straight of 8-run-plus games they've given up. A week straight.
Yeah, all right. So let's before we talk about the pitching, let's jump into their last week, okay? Because I mean, it all parlays into each other anyway. Because
it's all one big pile of flaming shit. Yes, exactly.
Because although some players have not produced offensively, it really is this disaster starts with the starting pitching, but just the pitching in general. So let's recap the past week or so. So on August 9th, the Red Sox won a game. Today is the 16th. On August 9th, the Red Sox won a game against the Blue Jays at Fenway. It was a Nathan Eovaldi start. Since then, they went on to play a 4-game series against the Rays. This is game 3 of a 4-game wraparound series. So they started on Friday, they'll end on a Monday with the New York Yankees. So since August 9th, the Red Sox played the Rays. They lost 8-7, 8-2, 9-5, and then they had that disaster 17-8 game that was a complete embarrassment. I have the updates on my phone. So when the Red Sox play, anytime anyone scores, either team.
Yeah. Oh, your phone must have been going great.
It was blowing up. I was like, what the hell's going on? I was like out with a friend.
Coaches really should be allowed to surrender in baseball at times. You know what I mean? Just like throw in the white flag, or like the owner comes down from the luxury box and tosses the white towel on the field or something,
Well, to your point, I mean, so let's look at what happened in that game. Because look, anything can happen in baseball. Like you've seen teams come back from ridiculous leads before. But, you don't want people getting hurt. So Kyle Hart, that was his first major league start. He gave up 7 runs.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
Welcome to in like 2 innings, by the way, Aaron.
Yeah.
Just doubled, and the Yankees.
His ERA is 15.43.
Yeah. So he didn't have a great game. But later on in that game, Peraza came on to pitch. He was like hit in the leg with a line drive. He had to be taken out of the game. Kevin Plawecki, the catcher, comes in to pitch, and they take what's his name, Lynn, the backup infielder, and Lynn is catching. So you have a catcher pitching and basically a second baseman, a middle infielder catching, and that was Zue Lynn's first.
What are the chances that one of the coaches asked him if he could catch, and there was just some kind of translation thing that got mixed up?
Yeah.
Really all of a sudden.
He was like, yes, I would like a soda. Kept me one. All of a sudden, they put
he's in the full gear, and he's standing up there. What the hell am I doing?
He's like, oh, shit. He's like, they didn't understand me.
I can't leave now.
I got to go do this because it's just too embarrassing not to follow through with this. Anytime you have a position player pitching, it's embarrassing. But when now you don't even have a catcher,
that's
like you don't have a pitcher or a catcher.
Way more common for somebody who's not a pitcher to be pitching.
Oh, of course.
Than for anybody but a catcher catching. You just never hear about that.
Very, very rare. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think right now of anyone who wasn't a catcher not catching for the Red. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't hear anything weird. Nothing
never happens.
Nothing pops into my head. Even if it was like someone like, Mike Napoli, maybe he might have caught one time, but he used to be a catcher. So
he was a catcher at some time, yeah.
Right. So in any case, then they start this Yankees series and they lose 10-3, and then 11-5 yesterday, which means that they were outscored 63-30.
That sounds that when you put it in those numbers, that's there's a lot going on right there.
63-30 in at that point 1, 2, 3. Well, now it's 65-30.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in 6 games. They averaged over, giving up over 10 runs a game. And to your point, if they do give up 8 runs tonight, which they are definitely on pace to do, it'll be a week, right?
Full straight through, just getting absolutely your shit pushed in every single night.
Yeah, and this whole like Yankees rivalry thing, right now it's not a rivalry at all. The Red Sox have lost 8 straight to the Yankees dating back to last year. It's the most losses in a row against the Yankees since 1985. And those 1986, the Red Sox turned it around. But those early 80s Red Sox teams were just terrible. So they just had bad pitching staffs. They always had good lineups. But, I mean, come on. 1985, I was 10 years old. Give me a break.
Guys are starting to look like they don't want to be there.
Yeah. And I mean, I know, some of the comments JD Martinez has made, he just seems like he is, completely deflated.
Just a beaten man.
Can't find his swing. Benintendi goes on the IL with a strained rib cage or whatever. You have to wonder.
He's seen a therapist every day, probably.
Yeah. I mean, you have to wonder if that's a fake injury or not.
He's got 103.
Yep.
103. He stinks. Absolutely clueless out there. Like we said a couple weeks ago, he was still doing it right after he got hurt. Every swing is just this thing from his knee that makes no sense.
He goes down on one knee. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
If you're just throw him some kind of pitch that moves a little bit in the strike zone, he's taking a cut at it. Throw him a breaking ball, he's taking a massive cut and not coming anywhere close to it.
Yeah, and I mean, he did have a couple of hits leading up to that injury, but
he had, I believe, and they said this. We're going to talk about this later. I was away, so I'm kind of in and out. But he in that game, it was like the third inning. He got like he had 3 hits or something by the third inning or something like that.
Yeah.
In like the first 3 innings of that game, he had more hits than he had all season.
Yeah.
He doubled his production in 3 innings.
It's in this short season, you can turn it around real quick. So I know you've been away. I know you've been on vacation. I actually have had some family in town myself. So, really depending on when I can get in front of a TV, this dictated whether I could watch the games or not. But I got to tell you, I have not watched many games, especially the Tampa series. I watched, I watched a little bit of one of the games. I've tried to watch both Yankees games, Friday night, yesterday's. I can't hang in there, man. It's too brutal.
This week is a microcosm of how much Major League Baseball fucked this whole COVID thing up. When they could have been the only sport playing. Because now that the Bruins, and I was on vacation, so you could say, oh, the vacation. I didn't miss any Bruins games on vacation. We were watching, we were at a cabin in the woods. All we were really doing is either swimming, drinking, or watching TV, So it's like, Major League Baseball has screwed up so bad on this. They could have had a full month almost where they were the only sport. They're getting people to see. Forget the fact that they stink. Even if your team's okay right now, why would you watch a Major League Baseball game when there's playoffs?
Well, that Bruins game when they beat Carolina in overtime, I was out to lunch with with some of my family, and there was a big screen TV, and we stayed there and watched the game. It was like, you know what I mean? It was like, well, we're not going to leave, So I mean,
Red Sox aren't stopping in your tracks, that's for sure.
No, and I mean, again. By the way, it's so classic. It's so classic Major League Baseball. They're like, yeah, we're gonna start the games later.
I know.
The games start at 7:30 now, not at 7:05 or 7:10 or whatever. It's just every decision they make is like the antithesis of what everyone wants, right? Because watching that Bruins game at noon or whatever time that thing started was awesome.
Oh, that was cool.
It was awesome.
You had 2 early games. You had the game that got the overtime before that got rescheduled, and it just it's been fun. I've been watching a lot of NHL. It honestly the only time you notice it's not a normal regular. It's when they stop play sometimes, but when the game's going on, you're getting caught up in the game. They're playing like it's the real playoffs. It's going 100%.
Yep.
NBA's playoffs are starting, but the way they were playing towards the end, there's a couple teams that had to get in. They were playing hard.
Right.
You're not seeing it in baseball. Across the board, baseball looks like a bunch of lollygaggers.
It just looks like AAA. I'm sure some teams are doing great. I guess the Cubs are doing really well. I mean, I don't know, man. My team's doing lousy, and it is brutal to watch. Rafael Devers with the errors,
he looks like shit.
I'm just like, what are you doing, kid?
He looks awful. He's batting 189, so he looks clueless up there. Can he stop? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because really, at this point we have to pick apart little things. Can he stop having a fucking full conversation with himself every single pitch?
Yeah,
it's always he's always acting like that was the pitch that he was going to hit, to the highway. Not every pitch was your pitch. But everyone, whether he swings or not, especially when he swings, if he fouls something off, in his mind, he's like, oh, that was going over. Just everything he just missed, it seems like. He's mad at himself for it.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like when I told Brian Rose to throw me, a third straight curveball. I'm like, yeah, I'll show you what I'm going to do with this thing. Now he's like, all right, throws me the curveball, and I swing and miss just like I did the first 2. It's like it doesn't matter.
I hate the Astros, but Zach Greinke the other night telling him what he was going to pitch.
Oh, yeah. That was
trying to get him out. That was something to see.
Yep. Well, it's just kind of like a little, I think he's trying to stick up for his teammates, and he's trying to say, look, guys, everyone tries to get an edge, so I'm giving you an edge right now, and he's still getting them out.
Dude, if you're a pitcher on that team, you do have a right to be pretty pissed.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, what? You did nothing. You know what I mean? It was that was out of your hands. So if you're a pitcher, you're like, I'm working my ass off. They know my pitches too,
Right.
but you idiots can make it looking like everything I did is fake. You know what I mean?
You know, Joe Kelly doubled down, you know, because, you know, he threw at the Astros guy and he was
End up going to jail over this, I think, at some point.
He might. But he doubled down and basically said to the Astros, like, you guys ruined a man's life, which is Alex Cora. And because, you know, no one really took responsibility for it. Obviously, Cora and some of the higher brass of the Astros, you know, were the scapegoats, including the manager, Eric Hinch. But, like, you know, I mean, I understand what he's saying because, you know, basically Cora was with another team now and everything else. But, you know, I think a lot of people in that organization made bad decisions. And ultimately, you know, it's almost like when a team is doing bad, you can't fire 25 guys. You fire the manager, you know, because you know.
Yeah.
So, all this talk about suspending, the Astros didn't even get suspended, right? And it's like, you can't suspend the entire roster. I mean, I guess you could stagger it, right, throughout the
but I mean, did they all do? I mean, no, I don't know. That's a tough road to hoe.
Yeah.
Maybe when it comes Hall of Fame time, I'm sure the debate will get sparked up again for some of those guys. You know what I mean?
I guess Jose Altuve can't hit his way out of a paper bag. I didn't look up his average or anything, but he is having a horrendous.
No, he's been awful this year. He's like lost. I think they moved him in the order, I believe, a little bit. He might have even sat out a game. He looks.
Yeah, they sat him out. It was yesterday or the day before. But in any case, so let's get back to the Red Sox.
Yep.
So, you know, let's talk about who you think are the best players on the Red Sox, okay? So, and generally there's a mathematical formula, and it's called WAR. It's called wins above replacement, okay? So if you think about all the great players, you know, the Red Sox have, I wouldn't say necessarily in their pitching staff, but in their lineup, you know, you got Devers, you got Benintendi, you have JD Martinez, you have Mitch Moreland, you have all these guys, Xander Bogaerts, Christian Vasquez, who have either are successful pretty much right now or have had success in the past, you know, hitting for average, hitting for power.
Or are making enough money that they should be having success.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I want to know who you think are some of the top. I wrote down the top 10. I'm not going to ask you to go through the top 10.
Now, my caveat here is this is as I'm walking by, you know, a week of me walking by the TV going, what the fuck? And then kind of, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of my limit. Hit in and out, usually multiple drinks involved, going, oh my God, these guys fucking suck. So, things I remember seeing a lot. I think I have a feeling that Mitch Moreland's hitting well, and he's playing some good baseball. He's got at least a couple home runs in the last week. I've seen a couple doubles.
Leads the team in home runs with 6.
Okay.
All right, he's number 2 on your WAR list. So well done.
Really?
Yeah.
Is Hidalgo?
Verdugo?
Yeah.
the guy they traded for Mookie Betts.
Hidalgo.
He's number 3 on your WAR list. Although, you know, his numbers aren't staggering or anything. I think he's sitting like 270 or something like that. But he's number 3 on your list.
He's had a couple good games. He's, you know, it's so weird. Like, we criticize these guys for not giving a shit. But also, is there anything more annoying than the fired up baseball player too? You know what I mean? It's a very, you got to find that spot in the middle. It's really true.
Well, as Verdugo said, you know, he said that it's been difficult for him because he really feeds off the crowds. And, you know, he would have, you know, no. At Fenway Park.
In LA, though, they're known for being they're not even there till the 3rd inning.
Well, you know, it takes them 8 hours to drive 15 minutes out there. So,
all right. So, who's the best player on the team right now? Is it Pilar?
He is number 5.
5. Ugh.
So let me go through the top 10.
Go through it, please.
The number 1 player if you will, if you're using the WAR metrics on the Boston Red Sox, is your new acquisition, Martin Perez. Okay? You want to know what his WAR is?
What?
Okay, and again, for you listeners out there and you viewers, WAR is wins above replacement. So if you got rid of this player, here's how many games you would basically lose or whatever, right?
Yep.
It's 0.7, which means it's not even one game. Okay? Now, to put that in perspective, okay, do you know who leads the major leagues in WAR?
I mean, I'd always assume like Mike Trout or something like that. Or
close. Hint, he used to play for us.
Ooh, same guy who had 3 home runs in the game the other day?
Yeah, the same guy who homered 3 times the other day.
Guy who, if you offered him $300 million, 10 years, might have taken it. That guy?
That guy. So his WAR is 1.8, which basically in this young season, right?
Yeah.
That's 2 wins. You get Mookie Betts off the Dodgers. They're basically 2 wins less, right? That's what the stat says.
And essentially, the best player on the Red Sox gives them nothing.
By the way, there's one starting pitcher on this list. There are 2 full-time position starters on this list in the top 10, which is Christian Vasquez. He's pretty much their full-time catcher.
Cooled down a little bit.
And definitely cooled down. And I mean, I would consider Mitch Moreland, pretty much a starter.
Yeah.
It goes Perez, Moreland, Verdugo. Number 4 is Phillips Valdez. He's their
plumber.
It's that guy who's basically skinnier than Pedro Martinez.
Oh,
I like him.
Yeah.
I like him. I've seen him pitch a couple of times. He looks good. Then number 5 is Kevin Pillar. Number 6 is Heath Hembry.
I didn't even know he was still on the team. I got to be honest.
Number 7 is Kevin Plawecki, your backup catcher. Number 8 is Josh Osich. Number 9 is Michael Chavis. And number 10 is Vasky.
Wow.
That's brutal, bro. That's
good.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
That's not good at all. They're just I mean, I guess the problem is that I read an article, even if they're the worst team in the league, I guess there's this pitcher from Vanderbilt who's supposed to be it's very rare in baseball that you have a guy who's like a Kobe Bryant kind of deal, I guess.
Right.
But because it's less than 80 games in that deal, the commissioner can just do whatever he wants as far as the draft goes.
He can do ping pong balls. He can do the name of the kid is escaping me too. I had it in my brain all day, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's supposed to be the real deal. Kumar or something like that.
I was looking at some looks big kid, big kid, throws hard. I guess in the College World Series, the last time they had it, he was just the stud. Took over the place.
Well, so how do you fix this Red Sox team? So Sam Kennedy comes out. Sam Kennedy is the vice president of player operations, whatever the hell he is. Trade deadline's August 31st, which is in 15 days. He says no player is untouchable. So before I ask you this question, I want to make something adamantly clear to all of our listeners and all of our viewers, especially the ones on Facebook, okay?
4-1 Yankees.
Yes, 4-1 Yankees. No, they're halfway there. All they need is
get 8, baby.
I'm rooting for the Yankees to score the 8. Let's go a full week of giving up 8 runs or more. That is an impressive.
Well, we said before the season started, you'll lose a lot of games 6-5. The problem is they're losing those games 13-5.
Exactly.
Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so much love and respect to my Facebook group people. You guys have helped us get to number 5. But I want to make something adamantly clear. I'm going to ask Andy a question, okay? And you have to understand, and I know I'm sounding super condescending right now, but you have
and that's on purpose.
And that's completely on purpose. You have to understand, okay, that when you have a player who sucks, you can't really trade them for much. Okay? I mean, And it also depends on their contract status. Okay? So if you have a bad player with a bad contract, you're not going to be able to trade them, and teams won't take them just because you don't want them and they're hurting your team. In that case, you have to release them, a la Pablo Sandoval. He had a horrible contract and he was a horrible player. No one was going to take him.
A la every pitcher who keeps just showing up on the Red Sox, because right now whoever gets released gets picked up by the Red Sox.
Right. So, and the reason why I'm being a jerk and being condescending like this is because, you know, in the comment sections, I don't want to hear, well, why do you want to trade, you know, some big name Red Sox guy? He's like a really good player. And it's like, yeah, and he's going to get you a return.
He's going
to get you a return. Like, if you say trade Ryan Brazier, that's the guy you have to get rid of. You have to understand you're not getting anything for Ryan Brazier, literally. Like, Ryan Brazier is a guy that you designate for assignment. You're not going to actually get a player for Ryan Brazier. So, you know, and again, I don't mean to sound condescending, but I totally do. That, you know, when I'm going to ask Andy this question.
Ryan Brazier with his 10.5 ERA.
Right. No one's going to take him, guys. No one's going to take him.
I've said he sucked before. He had a couple good games in the playoffs, and everyone's like, oh, Brazier's going to slide right into that setup spot. It's going to be like, there you go. It's like Frankenstein.
For those of you listening on Spotify or iTunes, I was doing the Ryan Brazier neck turn.
Zombie thing.
Which is just brutal. All right, so Andy, if no one's off the table, all right, so if no one is untouchable, as Sam Kennedy claims, give me a list, you know, top 3, top 5 maybe guys that you would trade, considering the Red Sox. I mean, at this point, the Red Sox would have to win a bunch of games right now in the next 15 days. Like, they'd have to go like 10-5, however many games they have, to even think about becoming buyers. And at that point, obviously, they would need starting pitching. I don't see that in the future. So we're going to assume that they're sellers. So who would you trade on this team? If it's untouchable, who would you go trade?
Like the caveat, kind of like, you're going to at least come out of the trade going, all right, it doesn't mean superstars. You know what I mean? Maybe you're getting some draft picks, maybe. But I would who would I trade? I mean, I've wanted to trade Jackie Bradley Jr. since day one.
Yep.
If someone's looking for a center fielder, defensive replacements, things like that,
you could get something for him.
Yeah.
And you have the depth to do it now that you have Pilar, you have Verdugo. You know, you would. I know Benintendi's hurt, but Zue Lin can play a little bit of outfield.
It doesn't matter.
Chavis can play a little bit of outfield, so I think you could do that. All right, good. Give me another guy.
If someone would take the contract, I would trade Nathan Eovaldi.
That was my number one pick. My number one pick. At this point, who cares? And you're going to say, well, trade Eovaldi. Then they got no one else. Guys, it's a 5-man rotation, and they basically have 2 pitchers, which is Eovaldi and Martin Perez. And Evaldi's contract sucks. He's in the second year of a bad contract. Last year, he missed a bunch of time with his first year on that bad contract. I would 100%, if a team's looking for a starting pitcher and they're willing to overpay for an Eovaldi and take that contract, I would make it happen in a second.
I mean, like, I want to trade Benintendi, but why would anyone take him now?
Right.
I mean, useless.
The only way they would take him is if you know, they kind of looked at it and said, okay, you know, we've analyzed some things he's doing wrong. We think we can help him. You know, maybe that type of situation. But yeah, of course, I would love to trade Andrew Benintendi at this point. But again, I don't know what you get back from right now. Would you trade JD Martinez?
Yes,
I would too, just for his contract situation.
Yep.
At this point, he's not playing well this year. I love him. I think he's a great player. But
next year, you only have him for next year, right?
Yeah, it goes on to like one of those things where you can opt out. I think he's in for this year. Yeah, I think that's it, right?
Well, he's not going to opt out of anything.
Yeah, he's not going to opt out of anything. He's making too much money. So, Would you trade Rafael Devers? Because here's my thing. I think that, I mean, he is costing you games defensively, right? And I think he's got a good bat, and he comes into clutch situations. But I mean, I think if I prefer a guy who's a little bit more. So I prefer a guy like a Mike Lowell type of guy. If you can get someone like him to come in, play good defense, and hit 285 with 20 homers, I mean,
I think you can get him to first base eventually as career goes.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's a third baseman.
Because all his errors are throwing errors.
Right? You know. With that said, if somebody wanted to get some prospects for Mitch Moreland,
yep,
they wanted to. Bogarts and Devers are really the only two people I'm not trading.
Yeah. Yep.
Vasquez, I guess.
I wouldn't trade. On my list, I had my untouchables were Bogey and Vasquez because they're up the middle guys.
Yeah.
And really Bogarts' contract isn't too bad considering.
Oh no, his contract's phenomenal.
His output. So
I mean, but no, there's a lot of guys who are clearly tradable, but no one's going to really want a lot of these guys if they're just, So
yeah, I mean, of all these, your only pitcher that you can really trade. Chris Sale is untradeable right now. You don't know when he might not be back till the middle of next summer.
I think just the nature of it, though. I think it's going to be real tough for obviously not the Red Sox, but another team to really extend themselves at the trade deadline. I don't know if you're going to see it as much, like someone really go for it.
Yeah.
There's too many variables. There's 16 teams getting in the playoff. It's just.
Yeah. Plus, it's like that wear and tear of a long season hasn't really manifested itself. So, people aren't like, oh, we really could give this guy a little bit of a break by getting a quality fourth outfielder. But I want to stick with the Red Sox pitching for a little bit because
it's horrible.
Alex Spear, and then by the way, this is why the Red Sox are in the position they're in right now with the pitchers. By the way, okay, Alex Spear of the Globe came out with his 108 stitches or whatever email that I get. Okay, listen to this one. As far as young Red Sox starting pitchers, right? So we go back to, Kyle Hart the other night when he got blown out of the water in Tampa or whatever when they were playing the Rays. No young Red Sox pitcher has made more than one Major League Baseball start for the Red Sox since Erod and Henry Owens in 2015. So in other words, in 5 years,
that's terrible.
The Red Sox have never brought up a pitcher to start a game and have him pitch more than one time as a starter. So
at best, every starting pitcher prospect has become a bullpen guy, is what you're saying.
Or released or traded.
Or go, yeah.
Right? So let's put that in perspective, okay? My boy Darwinzon, okay? Last year, he made one start. He never made another start. He made one start. And it was pretty lousy. I think he only went like 3 innings or whatever. But he had one start. Okay, never had another start. Go back a year, 2018. Jalen Beeks, who the Red Sox traded for Nathan Eovaldi. One start, he got rocked. He got hammered. Okay? And then they just don't pitch them again. They're like, well, you had your one shot, you jackbag. Like, time to go to the bullpen. It's like, maybe you should just try to, like, get them out there maybe one more time. I mean,
there's no confidence in them. They're not developing starting pitchers.
Right.
They're buying them. And that works when it works, and when it doesn't work, it's a huge problem.
Isn't that a horrible team philosophy, though? I mean,
it really is. I mean, theoretically, that's why Bloom's here, right? Because he's got the Tampa Bay pedigree where they bring the guys up and they
right. And the thing is, for me, is like, why not bring up these young guys in, the early? I know this season's different, so maybe not applying to this, right? But why don't you bring your guys up in the early part of the season and see what you have with them, so that the losses aren't as magnified, right? Because what are you going to do? Bring up a pitcher? If you're in a pennant race, you're not going to bring up Tanner Houck. You're not going to bring up the hell's the kid's name there? I can't remember it. The kid from New Jersey. It's escaping me. You're not going to bring these kids up in the middle of a pennant race and be like, all right, learn on the fly. Like,
go, kid.
You do it at the beginning of the season and maybe give them 5-6 starts, which would be, 2 months-ish, and see what you got and see if they can get out of it. Look at Pedroia's first month of playing baseball. He was horrible. And, everyone wanted Alex Cora to play for him, and he ends up figuring it out, and he ends up winning rookie of the year. So, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, but these decisions aren't being made out of what happens when they're in the majors. These decisions are being made well before, where they're clearly not developing starting pitchers. Because if they're bringing these guys up and they're only getting one start, they don't think they're a starter. They just need someone to stand on the mound for that day. You know what I mean? So they're not developed. If they really thought someone was a starting pitcher, Henry O, you know what I mean?
Yep.
He sucked, but you threw him out there a bunch because he'd been evaluated, he'd been graded. Why can't they draft a starting pitcher?
I have no words.
Why do you draft, unless somebody is like a Mike Trout or whatever, why do you draft anybody but a starting pitcher?
Right. Well, we've talked about that. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago too. It's like, just draft all the starting. I mean, I would rather the Red Sox acquire position players via free agency rather than starting pitchers, because starting pitchers cost you the most money, even if they're not that great, i.e. Nathan Eovaldi. I'm sorry. He's not that great.
Oh, he said it. He said it.
He's not that great of a pitcher. I'm sorry. I mean, he's the best we got, but I mean, in a normal year, he's like a number 4, number 5 guy, everyone.
Yeah.
Please. If Sale isn't hurt, if Price isn't traded, okay, Nathan Eovaldi is your number 4 starter.
4, because E-Rod would be pitching too.
I mean, it would go Sale, Price, E-Rod, and Eovaldi, and then Martin Perez. If things didn't get all screwy, that would be your deal. I don't know, man. All right, so
funny how a short season is going to really become like the longest season.
Yeah, no, it's already like the longest season. What do we got here? Something just happened. I guess
4-1 still. They're holding in there.
Nice play by Xander, I guess. Whose defense has been great this year, by the
way. Yeah.
All right, so switching gears a little bit. Tuukka Rask decides he is opting out of the rest of the season. From what I read, I mean, everything is super vague, but I guess he does have a newborn at home.
Okay.
And the vibe that I'm getting is that, it was just basically a family thing. He wants to be with his family. For me, Tuukka Rask is the David Price of the Bruins. For me, I've never, and that this is unfair to Price because he did win a World Series and he was the winning pitcher in.
I hold all the cards now.
Yeah, he holds all the cards now. But for me, just seeing Tuukka Rask over the years, I've always said to myself, they're never going to win a cup with this guy in goal. So I don't know. You're the hockey guy. What do you think about this move? What do you got?
I think this, as quote unquote shocking as it was, it probably should be the least shocking development.
Right.
You go back to, playing for an Olympic gold medal where he had the flu. Then the Bruins needed a win. It's last year in the fucking Game 7, 2 goals, 4 shot. It's the way he was handling himself, the way he was acting. He did not want to be there.
Right.
If you remember, he had to take like 3 in the season. He took 3 days off because of family things. And now, I don't know if he's trying to repair a marriage. I don't know what he's doing.
Right.
Okay. Sounds to me that his wife's getting plowed at home by tons of people, and he's got to get in there to run some defense. But I don't know if that's the truth. But
don't quote us on that, folks.
Allegedly,
we are not journalists.
And the Bruins Michael Felger was saying this, and I think he's right. The Bruins fans are starting to become like Celtics fans with Tuca, and you can't say anything, and it's like, dude, he's not that good. Stop throwing regular season stats in my face. He's not that good, and this idea that like you can't be pissed at him for this. If you weren't going to play, you should have said it before.
Right.
What changed? Now listen, if all of a sudden his kid had to have heart, everyone's always like, you don't know, maybe his kid needed heart surgery or something. Wouldn't they tell you that then?
Yeah. And by the way, when that does come out, I'll be like, oh, me, I'm sorry, mea culpa. Like,
if you're not going to let me in on that, fuck you.
Yeah, but that's the other thing, Andy, about society in general right now, right? Like, you can't change your mind when you are presented with new information, right? People are like, oh, well, you said you hated Tuca. You said you hated him. You said you didn't want to be there. You said you didn't had no heart.
Yeah.
That's before I knew that his kid needed like 6 new legs.
Whatever. Yeah.
Whatever the situation is. Like, I don't. And when I found that out, I realized, okay, my bad. Like, yeah, I would want to be with my family too.
So as of now, with the information that I have, which is the same as everybody else, so I think he's a piece of shit. I think that during the time off, he did nothing. I think he was grossly out of shape, and the tear was, it's, people think like, why, what, hockey, any sport, they don't, it's that real grind that you have to be in physical shape to really do it. Right. And I don't think he was in.
By the way, I think that's what's going on with Devers right now too. I think, when I did that Zoom with Devers and Xander and Erod, the only one to me, well, Erod and Xander kept talking about their workouts. Like, so they would like work out, they would wake up and like work out for like 4 hours. Erod would do his throwing regimen. Bogarts had this thing he did on the beach. Like, he had this whole like regimen he did on the beach because he lives in Aruba. Must be tough to be quarantined in Aruba.
I know, right?
But like, and Devers was just like, yeah, I'm like at my house.
We watch cartoons.
Yeah, it's like watching cartoons and eating like Fruit Loops and shit. Like, dude, you gotta get out there. But anyway, go back to Rask.
This whole, and they have to toe the company line. They have to say we support him. Blah blah blah. Those guys in that locker room have been let down. It's going to work out well for the Bruins because he only has 1 year left in his contract. So if they, even in perfect situation, if they trade him in the offseason, this is when you do it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Right.
Tuukka Rask will not be on this team.
Forgive me. What's the backup's name?
Halak.
Halak. Right. Okay. So if you break down their numbers for the the season and the round robin or whatever, they're like the same goalie.
They're pretty close.
They're like the same goalie. The numbers aren't that far off.
Well, the most important numbers are very far off. What they're paying them.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
So Halak's making a lot less. So hey, I mean, this would be so perfect if they could win this thing and just tell Tuukka, you know what, man, we don't need you anymore. Yep.
Smell you later. All right. Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously I hope nothing serious is wrong.
Yeah, we'll revise the statement if something's wrong.
Right, exactly. David Price opted out of the season because his wife was pregnant. Okay, I mean, I honestly don't know what COVID does to, if anything, to pregnant women or children, like children in the womb. I don't know. So, Dave, you do you. I don't blame you for that. It's so you that it happened. Right.
There's plenty of people who are away from their family for like extended periods of time. Plenty of jobs. So it's like, what? Come on. I still think it's fucking lame. You're pregnant. People have been pregnant for thousands of years. It can be done.
But Andy, it's the miracle of birth. It's
Um,
only happened 40 gajillion times.
yeah.
It's still the miracle of birth. I mean, the miracle of birth was like 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, when people were shitting it out on the side of a creek, that's a miracle those things lived, all right? You're frying up the placenta because there's no other food.
That's the miracle of birth. It's the miracle of birth. All right, let's wrap it up here with episode 84 of the.
Yeah, I think we got a title for the episode.
Yeah, the miracle of birth.
The miracle of birth.
I'm your host, Mark Jacaris. Alongside me, as always, is Andrew Andrews.
All right.
And we want to thank all our fans again for getting us to the top 5 of the Red Sox podcast world. I think the only ones ahead of us are WEEI, obviously Section 10, Over the Monster, and CBS Sports Boston. So
pretty cool.
It's just a real honor just to be mentioned with those guys. So, we really appreciate it. So episode 84 is in the books, and we will see you next time.
Peace.